Hello, my name is Annie and today I'm doing my final cash unstuffing and check-in for the month of November. So I have a giant mug of coffee with me today rather than my small regular cappuccino because strap yourselves in, guys. It's going to be a long one. I only have 4 days to unstuff for the rest of November. I did talk about it in my last check-in, if you caught that, but I pretty much only had the big bills to come out. My water bill came out for $191.98, plus a bit of cash back from my bank, $1.92. Other big bills were my strata bill, the council bill, and health insurance the second fortnight. So I did a grocery run on Monday for $69.31 and the last of my Christmas gifts for $54.15. And since the Black Friday, Cyber Monday sales were still running, I bought a box of my hair dye with the developer, $28.64. So let's unstuff. I've got a bit of cash. I'll deal with that later. I did also pay a minimum payment on my taxes. So bills and utilities, $270 is coming out, so $300 out. 30 in, 1,000, 20, 40, 50, 60, 65. And I might swap that back for a 50. So still 1,065 in bills and utilities. Now, I know this seems like a high amount, but I pay my insurances yearly. And some of my subscriptions come out yearly. So that's why I have it fully funded in here. Council rates were paid $335, so I'm left with $70. Strata levy was also just paid, $640 comes out. So left in strata levies, I have 20, 40, 60, 80. $80. Nothing from medical business. I had a spend that I'm rounding down to $5, leaving me with $100, $200, $330 in business. Groceries. I came in perfectly under budget, $70 or $69 something plus change, so $2 left of the month. So things are getting tighter. I'm also playing my scrimp and save. So $2 left and I will rub this off and restart for next month. Splurge, hair came out. So 40 out, 10 back in, so I've got $30 in splurge. That one took a shellacking. Home and miscellaneous, nothing came out. I still have $50. Yep, and that's that for this binder. Christmas, in the budgeted spending, I'm taking out $55. So in Christmas, I still have $100, $200, $10, $15, $215 in Christmas. And that's, I do have to chip in for one group gift and food. So under budget with Christmas this year. That's great. Let's deal with the cash. I think this has to go back to bank anyway. I'm a digital stuffer, as you can see anyway. So 100, 200, 300, 400, 500, 600, 700, 750, 760. I've got 760 in cash. So that'll just go. And I will drop it by a bank when I pass one. So with rollover, digital rollover, I'm adding $11.07 to this, taking my month's rollover to $41.27. So $40, and I will add this to December's cash stuffing. So my monthly spend was high. I took the opportunity for all of the Black Friday sales to stock up on some household items, even though, I don't need them right now. Things like toilet paper, dishwashing liquid, hand soap, paper towels. These are adult living necessities that you will use throughout the year. And so I did stock up on them. I know these things rarely go on sale, like that, your supermarkets or online Amazon, whatever, they'll do a sale every now and then, and you buy it at those prices anyway. But Black Friday brought them down by another $3-4 each or something like that. So I've stocked up for a while. Whatever you can really scrimp and save, right? So this month I spent, this week was just mainly bills, the big whoppers, right? My bills came in more than 1,100, but with groceries and all that, I totaled for the 4 days $1,395.16, taking my month total spend to $3,207.27. That's pretty high. So, I don't think I went crazy with buying things. I did buy some new fry pans. Again, it's not like they're big splurges, but a fry pan is a fry pan, right? I don't think I was excessive with my spending. Gifts were budgeted, so that's great. So that's been my spending. If you would like to click off the video here, then I farewell you here. But I actually want to talk a little bit about my financial situation moving forward. Now, I read an article earlier this month saying that close to 50% of all Australian mortgage holders were in some form of mortgage distress. Now, on the macroeconomic level, I keep very, very up to date with the news. Being a small business owner and obviously being a mortgage owner myself, having a mortgage, I keep very, very, very keenly aware of what's going on with the financial markets. So I've talked about it before on this channel, but if you missed it, I have a mortgage and I'm doing this all by myself. I'm in Sydney and, I don't own a house. It's an apartment, okay? It's an apartment because if you can own a house on your own single income as a millennial, you must be filthy rich. Now, I consider myself reasonably well off, reasonably successful. I'm only in my early 30s and, I own a business and I don't know anyone my age who does this. it's hard work, I won't lie, but it's also very rewarding. And I don't work a 9 to 5. That's not my life. I work very strange hours. I get to pick my hours. I get to pick my clients. I have a very, very, very blessed existence, and I understand how privileged I am that I can be a property owner in Sydney, one of the most expensive cities in the world, on my own. Now, I'm less than 2 years into my mortgage, and the conditions, obviously, of the financial markets has very dramatically shifted within these 2 years. So, boring bit to come, but I'm going to talk it through. Okay, so let's talk about my current situation and the general macroeconomic conditions that got us here. Now, unless you've been living under a rock, you've been hearing about how the Reserve Bank has been hiking interest rates. Now, the Reserve Bank of Australia, they set the cash rate. The cash rate is basically the amount of cost it is for a lending institution, a financial institution like a bank, to borrow money at. So if you're a bank and you want to borrow money from another financial institution to then lend it to us plebby customers, then that's the cash rate. The RBA sets the cash rate. APRA is the governing body that sets the rules for lending. So something has changed since I have, bought my property. I bought my property off the plan in 2017. So at the time, after 2014, APRA said that if you are a bank and you want to lend money to a customer, then this customer needs to be stress tested up to 7% on the home loan. So they need to survive a 7% interest rate on top of what is called a HEM. So the HEM is the household expenditure measure. Basically, it's this book that every bank has about how much they think that you spend on a yearly basis. So, if you have a kid or whatever, then, they assume kids are expensive and they tell you you're spending this much per year. Now, I show you all of my expenses pretty much, so you know how much I spend per year, per month. I did my average out last year, and minus the travel, I spent $2,100 a month. Yeah, easy. But obviously the bank thinks you spend way more than that, You're a millennial. I think I remember being assessed at about an expenditure of $2,400 per month, more with travel. So, regardless, in 2019, APRA changed the rules. They said that you only need to survive a 3% buffer on top of the cash rate or whatever the bank current mortgage home loan was. So plus 3%. At the time of the pandemic, the cash rate dropped all the way down to a 0.1%. So, because it dropped down to an unprecedented 0.1% cash rate plus the bank spread, that's what the bank makes, a lot of mortgages were sitting at like 1.98%, 2% mortgage. Plus, your 3% buffer means that you only had to be assessed up to 5%. So I've had a quick Google of what a few banks are offering right now for variable rates, just on their website. Yeah, you can do much better than this. My rate is much better than this. Commonwealth Bank is advertising 6.49%, Westpac 6.44%, and my current mortgage lender, ING, is advertising 6.14%. Now, if we apply the rules of that 3% buffer, you're at over 9% now. So you need to now be stress tested at a bare minimum of 9.14% if you want to refinance, if I want to refinance. Now, the point of this video is to tell you that I'm under mortgage stress by the definition of mortgage stress. So there's no way I can refinance now. I can survive 9%, 9.14%. I have crunched my numbers. It means that I don't put anything away in my savings at all. I pay the mortgage, I pay my bills, I eat, I put a little bit into sinking funds to cover home expenses and clothing expenses, and then that's it. There's no way I can change banks right now. So that puts me in what is called a mortgage prison. I'm stuck. I can't move. That's just what it is. That's the fact of it. And, if you're somehow watching this and you don't have a home loan, then this is the reason why you can't borrow. Because you now are stress tested at the current home loan rate plus 3%, which brings you to 9%. So you need to put in your income into a home loan calculator, put a 9% interest in there, put in your expenses, which is your HEM, and see how much they will let you borrow. I've had a look. I mean, it is quite shocking. When I took out my home loan, I was offered a maximum borrowing of $640,000 on my income alone. Now, I do make reasonable money in Sydney, and I did not borrow to my maximum. I did not take out a home loan of $640,000 by myself on my single income. My loan is lower than that, but it's still, high. I'm only less than 2 years into my mortgage, and these rate rises apparently have affected people of my generation and people who have just hopped on to a mortgage, obviously more than anyone else. Some people are 10 years into their mortgage and they're plugging along fine. The first few years of the mortgage are harder because you're paying more interest than you are on the principal. So, while interest rates were low, I was dumping a lot more money into the mortgage just to bring down the principal. And I was trying to max out my offset account. But that's the state of play. Let me show you my numbers. When I took out my home loan, my variable home loan rate was at 2.04%. Obviously a historic low. Since May of 2022, there has been 13 interest rate rises by the Reserve Bank of Australia. The official country's cash rate has gone from 0.1% to 4.35%. That's the cash rate that banks borrow at. So, plus the spread, your mortgage is now sitting at a 6%. A 4.25% increase to the cash rate has occurred very, very swiftly. Apparently, this has not happened since 1990. So, my home loan interest rate went from 2.04% all the way to where it sits now at a 6.09%. Because I have successfully negotiated my interest rate down on 3 occasions, a little bit, rather than my home loan going up by 4.25%, which is the official Reserve Bank's cash rate, I have, not taken the whole hit, and my bank interest for the home loan has gone up by only 4.05%, which means I have blown through that 3% buffer I was talking about earlier. Now, obviously, things have to change in my budget to accommodate this. You've probably been noticing in the cash stuffings, the amounts are getting lower and lower and lower. Now, obviously, every single month I reset and I do my budget to work out how much I'm putting into my envelopes. But it's been a long time since I sat down and had a holistic look at my budget. What sparked me doing this in the first place was that I read an article, I will actually put a link to it in the description box below, saying that 48.5% of all Australian mortgagees were under some form of mortgage stress. Now, the definition of mortgage stress in this country is if you spend more than 30% of your pre-tax income towards your mortgage. Not a problem for me pre-rate rises. I was spending less than 25% of my pre-tax income. I've just had a recalculation of the whole thing. And because I'm spending more than $1,000 per month more now on my interest and on the home loan, I'm now spending 39% of my pre-tax income. It's just under, but I've rounded it up to my mortgage, putting me in the 30% over mortgage stress definition. So apparently I am part of that 48.5% of Australians in mortgage stress. I don't know why we use pre-tax measures to calculate this. It's a stupid measure in my opinion because you're playing with imaginary money that you don't have. So let's talk about my post-tax income. So, pre-rate rises, I was spending 33% of my post-tax income to the mortgage. Now I'm spending 49%. It's just a fraction under 49%, 48 point something percent of my post-tax income straight to the mortgage every month, first of the month, every month. That's flabbergasting. I know the numbers every single month. It's the first calculation I make when I plan my budget for the month. But to see that number is quite staggering. I will put on screen how much extra people are paying if your mortgage is say $500,000, $750,000, $1 million. Now, I know people at home might be thinking, who the hell has a $1 million mortgage? Well, a lot of Sydney-siders do. The double income, no kids group. But, I'm doing this by myself. I've done the calculations. One more interest rate rise. If there is one more rate rise, I will be spending more than 50% of my post-tax income just towards the mortgage. Now, that's the minimum repayment. I have discussed on this channel multiple times before, but I do have an offset account. So whatever money I keep in my bank account reduces the interest on my home loan. But they assume your repayments go up anyway. So you just pay more of the principal and less of the interest. Regardless, it's great for taxation purposes, but, it's still paying out the window every month. Now, I'm not saying I'm destitute or anything, but I'm still putting money away in my savings, which is great. But obviously, something's got to give. Something has to give here. I have already cut some pretty, major things, like I took out my travel envelope, I have no business traveling when this much money is going towards the home loan every month. And don't get me wrong, I still have a very, very healthy emergency fund. My emergency fund sits at $15,000. But because I am by myself and I am self-employed, I need that big emergency fund for, God forbid, something happens. But my plan is this. If there is one more interest rate rise, I will not have any money for savings challenges at all. Things like new phone. I know this has been like a joke on my channel. Yeah, it's basically the fund in which I reach into when I want to buy things or do home improvements like my fly screens. To the house that was $3,000 plus. I mean, I don't regret it. It's really nice having airflow, and with my fan now and with the fly screens, I can basically keep my doors open all the day, all day long, and that actually cuts down on things like air conditioning. So while a capital expense, a long-term investment, I don't mind doing that. New phone's never going to happen, right? Christmas was budgeted for, New Year's is budgeted for, month ahead. This is largely to help me get ahead on my bills or the air conditioning fund. Yeah. Again, while it may increase my bill a little bit more, I'll have to be a little bit careful with that. That's not going to hurt me. I mean, I could always swelter. Things like birthday, I don't really care about my birthday anyway. I've genuinely never really cared. I'm not the kind of person that really needs a big party. My friends basically take me out, and begrudgingly so. My best friend has to call me like, put on real pants, please. I'm like, okay. So that's really not going to hurt. Obviously, it's not going to kill me not to have these things. It's not going to kill me not to travel. So that's the plan. One more rate hike. If there is one more rate hike, I won't put any money in my savings challenges. It'll just be the bills and, small things, small splurges. Now, what are the chances of another rate hike? A report just came out very, very, very recently from the OECD saying that they believe that Australia is at the end of the interest rate hikes. So, that's an interesting prediction. However, the money markets or the share market, the stock market, has priced in one more. They believe that there's one more rate hike. So, these people put their money where their mouths are. So, and they invest their money accordingly. So, I'm going to mentally prepare myself and financially prepare myself for one more rate hike. In this event, my mortgage would jump from its current 6.09% to 6.34%, taking me to about 51% of my post-tax income. Now, I can weather that. As I said, savings challenges out the window. I've got two options. Either earn more money or further cut expenses. Obviously, I'm going to try and do a combination of both, but I'm in my low season for work. I just peaked in my high season for my business in really July, August, September, October. Those are my big seasons. So I have squirreled away some money for, the annual leave, the no work that's coming up in December, January. Most people don't think there will be a December rate hike. I don't think so either. The mortgage repayment hasn't even come out yet. The one that was passed in November on Melbourne Cup Day, that'll come out in January. Some people think February. the Reserve Bank of Australia does not meet in January. So yay, it is literally impossible to have a rate hike in January. They will look at data, spending for the last quarter. Now, obviously, spending will have gone up in November for Black Friday, December for Christmas. So they might have a look at the data. Obviously, the financial markets think there's a chance of one more rate hike. So I'm going to plan for the worst case scenario and assume that's going to happen. What happens if there's another one after that? If there are somehow 2 more rate hikes, I think a lot of Australians are going to be very, 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 very badly off. There's no way of getting around that. If that number of more than 48.5% of Australians were already under some form of mortgage stress before Melbourne Cup Day, then you can only imagine how bad it's going to be. Now, I've talked about it before on my channel, but I salary sacrifice, which means I put more money into my superannuation to pay for retirement and also to reduce my taxable income. This is extra money that I've been putting aside. As a small business owner, I am in charge of my own superannuation. For me, the obvious cut is here. I mean, it sucks. It really does. But last year, I managed to put in an extra $12,000 into my superannuation. Obviously, with mortgage rate rises, more than $1,000 a month extra is going out the window to the bank every single month. So that's why you've probably been noticing my numbers are very, very small compared to last year. Obviously, that's the fat to trim. These bills are non-negotiables. Savings for me is also a non-negotiable. I have to pay back some of the business. We've made a little bit of a gamble. We're starting a new business, and that's also a non-negotiable for me. Emergency. The sky has to be falling for me to touch this again. So no, that's not going to happen. Groceries and eating out. I mean, I've said it before on my channel. I hate cooking. I detest cooking. But it'll have to happen. It'll have to happen. Friday night takeaways, I can sacrifice that. Yeah. I don't need to eat out. Splurge. Now, splurge isn't just fun money. Splurge is everything from clothing through the year to shoes and, like essential clothing as well, like including things like underwear, which I just bought a new pair of. Things like that. Going out, eating out as well. That comes from splurge. There are some, obviously I do have to continue stuffing this for necessary items. If you have a hole in your clothes, your underwear's falling apart, your bras are falling apart, well, you got to buy new ones. Some of it is non-negotiable. This can be further cut. Oh, back in the day, I used to give myself $100 a week. Not anymore. Now I give myself, $200 a month. It's not going to kill me. I don't need to go to a concert. Home and miscellaneous. Some of this can get cut. Obviously, I was very frugal with toilet paper and dishwashing liquid purchases this month. I'll be good for a while, Obviously, you have to buy things like toilet paper. Dishwashing liquid, that can get cut a little bit further if I need to. Family, non-negotiable. Gifts and hosting, it's mostly hosting. My friends do kicking anyway. That's already been cut quite a lot. I can cut that even further. Travel's gone out. I do have already next month's mortgage already prepared. So that's January's increase already prepared. And that's cash back to the bank. There is still room to trim. So I'm not in financial trouble yet, but the numbers do shock me a little bit. Okay, so I know the thing on most people's lips are now, the phrase, the cost of living. Again, like I said, I sat down and I really crunched my numbers. Yes, of course, I've always known that my numbers have been going up, but again, a holistic look at my budget year on year. My electricity bills have gone up 20%. Gas and hot water is up a whopping 25%. Sydney water is up 10%. It's closer to 11%. Insurance went up 25%, and I shopped around, guys. Amy tried to dump a 32% increase on me, so I swapped to GIO this year and still copped 25% extra year on year. Council rates are up 4.5% and strata levies are up 4.2%. These are non-negotiables. Yeah, I mean, sure, I could use a little bit less electricity somehow, but it's things like the daily supply charges that get you. I'm also in an embedded network, and I have checked our kilowatt, rate usage. It is cheaper than what other people are paying. So to be fair, being in an embedded network is not the worst. Sydney water is killing me, guys. Yeah, the usage is negligible. My negligible charge on the usage is like $20. You have to pay for things like sewage. That's a fixed expense that they charge you as, a homeowner. Insurance, you can't dump insurance. What happens if your house burns down? You're screwed. Not happening. Council rates, also non-negotiables. Strata levies pays for the rest of things. These are my holistic numbers, and as you can see, the lowest increase, 4.2%, still, below inflation, but the rest of it is an unholy amount. These 25% jumps, they're painful, and what's petrol costing now these days? Regardless, this is the state of things. I know, if you guys are sitting at home, you guys probably recognize your bills going up. I'd urge you to sit down and compare a year-on-year cost. So, the easy calculation for this is look at this year's quarter's bill or this year's month bill, compare it to last year's bill. What's the difference? And look at the percentage. I'll show you the maths. Okay, so in case you're sitting at home wondering how I got these percentages, I'll spell it out for you. Number one, step one, take your new bill cost minus the old bill cost, and you get the amount of increase. Then, brackets first, the increased amount divided by the cost of the old bill, and then times 100 to get the percentage. Pretty easy. Let's look at it with my Sydney water bill. Okay, so these are my 4 Sydney water bills, November, August, June, February of this year. As you can see, after the financial year, we had a big jump. My bills are roughly the same every quarter, right? Like $1, $2 difference. I've averaged it out, so these two added together divided by 2 gives me $192.89. These two together divided by 2, $175.08. So how you calculate the difference, or how I calculated the difference, is 192.89 minus 175.08 equals a difference of $17.81. That's my increase. How do you calculate a percentage of that? Take 17.81 divided by what the bill was, what this was, 175.08 times 100 gives me a total of 10.17% increase. So that's my jump. 10.17% increase after the financial year. 10.17. So that's your maths. So basically you look at what the difference is between an old bill, the new bill. So this minus this, put the difference over the old bill and then times 100 to get your percentage. So, I mean, you guys probably don't need me to tell you the maths for that, but just in case. That's how I worked out all my percentages, and it's important to look at that holistic number. But yeah, when you're looking at things like, $17, $20, if, $20 doesn't feel like a lot, I think. But looking at percentages overall, it becomes a better look at where you're sitting. Anyway, this was a really, really long video. But yeah, I think like many Australians, I'm going to be having a very hard line look at my budget moving forward into the new year. Obviously, the mortgage is the biggest issue right now. Like I said, I'm not dying or anything, but it is starting to get a little bit more painful, and I'm starting to look at where I can scrimp and save, and accounting for further increases. It's not like your bills are going down. Nobody thinks that these bills are going down. Water, electricity, gas, petrol, these things are not going to go down. So I need to work out again, moving forward, how can I plan these buffers and increase the amount that I'm stuffing into things like my bills. My bills get a flat $500 per month. I've already cut out some subscriptions and things like that. I won't be cutting out every subscription. I don't want to live like a monk. But lots of things have gone from this. I also didn't tell you how much health insurance went up too, but that went up too. Yeah, that's the state of play here. I did look at, worst case scenario, guys, worst case scenario. I put in my address on domain.com as well as realestate.com, and I had a look. If I were to rent my apartment currently, the current rental yield for my apartment is between $700 to $750 a week if I were to rent it out. That's how much a renter is currently paying for the same, equivalent and even smaller apartment in my building at the moment. Now, $750 a week, minus taxes, minus insurance and stuff, doesn't cover my mortgage. I'm going to just say it. It's going to sound awful, but I do not want to go crawling home to mum and dad's place. I really don't. I mean, very honestly, when I bought my apartment in the location, I did have it in mind that it's close enough to mum and dad's that if the shit really hit the fan, I could go crawling back to mum and dad's. But I do not want to be, and I won't need to. And I won't need to unless Armageddon happens and interest rates hit 7%. But I'm going to tell you guys, if somehow 2 more rate rises occurred, yeah, I'd consider making eyes at the Maserati owner downstairs. 3 more rate rises and I'm going to throw myself at a lady who owns the pink Porsche downstairs. Oh, who am I kidding? I'm neither pretty enough, nor skinny enough, nor young enough to go find myself a sugar daddy. I'm joking. I'm fine. Yeah. Anyway, if you stayed to the end, thank you very much for listening to my rant about the cost of living. But moving into next month's cash stuffing and the month after that, you're going to see some pretty drastic changes to my budget. I hope that you're all doing well, and that I hope that these cost of living increases aren't hurting you too badly either. I think a lot of people are really, really struggling, and, worse than I am. I mean, I'm not going to pretend that I'm in a world of pain. I'm not. I'm okay. But these things are starting to creep into my budget. And like I said, some pretty obvious changes need to be made moving forward. I hope to catch you next time. Bye.